How have I been watching this for an hour? Excuse me, this is not okay. But you're like, it's just kind of, it's a chill, relaxing game. So.
Welcome back to Bread and Butter, everybody, where we're serving up the basics for Hearthstone improvement on episode 53. And as always, I am joined by my co-host Tito. Tito, how are you doing today?
Fantastic, Doc. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. And we have a special returning guest, Pocky. Pocky, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me back. It's been a little bit, but I'm happy to be back and happy to talk about some Hearthstone with you guys.
Heck yeah, we're glad to have you. Thanks for being back. So, in Hearthstone recently, what have you been up to?
I have been back to BGs. I actually took a little bit of a break at the end of the anomaly meta with Battlegrounds because they were fun and I really, really loved the concept of anomalies. Like when they were announced, I was so excited. I thought, okay, this is kind of like Tavern Brawl for Battlegrounds, right? Everything's gonna be like changed up, and it was changed up, but it wasn't as fun as I thought it would be. But now that spells are here and anomalies are gone, I've been back to BGs and having a lot of fun.
Now, you don't play standard, do you?
Not anymore. I used to. That's I played standard up until Battlegrounds was released, and then I still played it afterwards, but slowly it just sort of faded as I played, spent more and more time in Battlegrounds and I guess it's worth talking about. I've thought about getting back into it because they have all those catch-up packs and I have like 500 packs like sitting in my account. So it's not like I have a shortage of packs to get back into it, but at least for now, Battlegrounds is just too fun for me to, I open up the client and that Battlegrounds is right there and I gotta click it.
Well, that sounds like a great thing to do once you hit that kind of wait. Last iteration, you quit on anomalies for a while, took a break. Maybe the next time when you feel like you need to take a break from the current meta, just have the Pocky play standard and make it a thing.
Perhaps maybe that's the next one. But hopefully spells aren't going to go that way, and they'll keep our interest for the whole meta. I know, I'm not the only streamer that sort of, especially with Battlegrounds and standard, is the same where that meta kind of can, sometimes you have the good metas that have some staying power, and then other times you have ones that kind of age a little bit faster.
How about yourself, Doc? What have you been up to in Hearthstone?
Yeah, I've played a couple games of standard and I've played a few BGs. I've just had some stuff going on recently, so my Hearthstone time has been relatively small. So I haven't done a whole lot, but I really like spells. I got to play Doc Holiday, and my first game is Doc Holiday. I got first place, so that was fun.
Doc playing the Doc?
Yes, you know it.
Docception.
Yeah, BGs are fun. Pocky, sorry, Tito. I will ask you what you've been doing, but I have a question for Pocky. So I know you went to TwitchCon. Did you end up going to BlizzCon?
I didn't make it to BlizzCon. They're kind of close and
time frame.
It could be expensive. So, I didn't get the invite to try out the new duos. I didn't get to try duos. But it looks interesting. It would have been really, really fun and all the people were there, but it was great going to TwitchCon too. There was a ton of Hearthstone and Battlegrounds people there, some that I'd met before, a lot that I hadn't, and it was really fun to connect with everyone and also meet up with people that are kind of outside the Hearthstone community that are on Twitch and stuff. So it was really fun. Some of the European crew even came over, so got to meet up with like XD and Pocket Train, and then
that's pretty cool.
Some of the other standard players like McBanterface. I was helping. Showed them how to play craps and stuff. Like it was a blast. It really was.
Heck yeah! So Tito, what have you been doing inside Hearthstone?
I've been doing standard. I've been playing. I'm trying to hit the legend. I've been playing a lot of fun decks, which has been counterproductive to necessarily finishing the climb. But we play a little Funky Hunter, which is a lot of fun. It's with the buzzards, and you get the what's the minion? The one that grows all your minions if you play a minion bigger than that. That's a lot of fun. You can play the sneaky snakes. You play that. You play some of your 4 ones, and you play the buzzards. And it's a lot of fun. It's a little unorthodox. Outside of that, I've been playing a lot of Earthen Paladin. I said that, yes, Earthen Paladin, and it's actually pretty good. It's not really Earthen Paladin. It's kind of, you're not going all in on the Earthens, but it's a lot of reload there, and it's a lot of stabilization by having these minions that just keep regenerating. But it's probably in the best place it's ever been, and I'm having a lot of fun with that. So we'll get there. This week in THL, I lost to some no-name person. I'm trying to remember. Their name's Donkey. I'm not sure if you've heard of him. He says he's been top 16 Masters Tour. I don't know. But the cool thing about that matchup was once we were done, I played okay. I was in every matchup. And afterwards, we reviewed the games together, and that was an awesome experience because not only he has a great Hearthstone mind, but also to kind of like take the opportunity with the person you just played that has their mindset of what happened in their game and to go through it at the same time. That's kind of like a different level than just reviewing your replays with something else. So that was just really awesome. So Donkey, if you're actually listening, I appreciate it. That was amazing. But Pocky, what have you been doing outside of the game of Hearthstone?
Streaming, I've been, it's the holiday season, so been meeting up with family and stuff. Been, playing some other games and stuff as well, which has been fun. Like I said, taking the break from Battlegrounds was a nice refresher. Let's see, basketball. I'm a big basketball fan, so I've been watching the NBA. My team, the Minnesota Timberwolves, are doing well. They're on the top of the standings. They're the best team in the league by record right now. So I've been having a lot of fun the basketball season and stuff this year. Football, less positive things about my team, so we'll just stay away from that. Yeah.
What have you thought? What are your thoughts on the in-season tournament?
I'm a big fan. Before the format was announced, I was not a hater, but I was skeptical that it'd be good. But with the way that it sort of, they broke it out into the normal season. I know people didn't like the courts, but I thought they were a nice way to distinguish, even though some of them absolutely were eyesores. But I think it was really fun. And then I watched the full, final championship game last night, and that was super fun. There's going to be all the conspiracy theorists saying, "Oh, it's rigged for the Lakers and LeBron or whatever." But I mean, LeBron at this point, he's just amazing, and I think it is good for the league that he wins the first MVP because kind of put some legitimacy on that award, and people are going to be like, "Oh, LeBron went for it. I want to win it." So I think it's cool, and I'm excited to see how it kind of stacks up in the years to come, right? Where it sort of builds out a history.
I mean, Anthony Davis probably should have won the MVP, but I get why they gave it to LeBron. And the courts look, I don't care about how the courts look. I just hope that they take this year and fix them, because I know that a lot of the players were complaining about how slippery they were. And I was a big fan of the tournament too. They just need to fix the tiebreaker or whatever, because the point differential made it really awkward.
Oh, I mean, trust me, I know, right? Like I said, I'm a Wolves fan. We won 3 out of the 4 games, did well, didn't even make it to the finals. We did benefit because our scheduled matchups, because we didn't make it, were Memphis and San Antonio. So that's fantastic. But, that's a win in and of itself. But, it was looking really good for us to be there. And then, the point differential, it was a bit weird.
The Celtics had to win. They had to blow out a team. They had I think it was the Bulls. They had to blow them out by like 30 something. And so, they're keeping their starters in a game that's just out of hand. And it just felt kind of awkward. But I'm a fan too. I'm looking forward to it. How much now? I probably shouldn't ask this, but how much did it hurt to watch Kevin Garnett have success in Boston?
None actually.
Nice.
I think the KG trade. So I've been a fan for a long time. I started following in like 2001. Like so, like I got to experience the glory days of KG and the Wolves when we were good, which is why people are kind of like why are you a Wolves fan? I'm like, you don't understand. We used to be great. We used to be something. But I mean, KG is such a cool player because he's really like the epitome of loyalty. And our team was not good. And we had to convince him that like a trade was best for him. And eventually he did, but he like initially he did not want to be traded. Like he had the no trade clause. We had to convince him like, hey, like look at this, what you could go do in Boston, and seeing him have that success that we weren't able to get to here was good. He came back. I went to his homecoming game when he came back, after his stint in Brooklyn as well. And, it's kind of cool. He got to mentor Karl Anthony Towns, who's still on the team. So I think the biggest thing with KG that I regret is I just wish they'd retire his number, but he has some issues with the current ownership. But that should be hopefully done soon, and then we can retire his number because he's just an all-time great in the game of basketball, let alone obviously for the Wolves.
Yeah, and that that needs to happen. And one last thing is when the expansion teams came out, it was, I believe, the Timberwolves, the Heat, whatever the Pelicans are now, they were something else. And there was one other team. I picked, was it the Orlando Magic? I picked I picked the Minnesota Timberwolves to be the team to root for, and they were horrible when you guys first started out. Like other teams got better a lot faster, and Timberwolves were like 12-80, and I had like the hat and everything. But I'm a Celtic fan, so I had a real team to root for. But that was the team that I was rooting for secondarily, and they just took a while to get there. But Doc, I think we probably need to end NBA talk. I mean, if there's still people listening, what have you been doing outside of the game of Hearthstone?
Yeah, so I've been playing a lot of Commander for Magic Gathering. Played a lot of games with Mad at Arms and a couple other people from the Squelch Discord. I watched The Boy and the Heron yesterday, which is the new Studio Ghibli movie. It was incredible. I mean, like a lot of Studio Ghibli movies, there's a lot of abstract storytelling, right? And so it was really good. It was really sad. Like the overall story was really sad, but the theming of like what the movie was supposed to make you feel and understand was really impactful. Because it's a story about loss and how life can be unfair, but also you have the power to make your life better if you want to. So that was really cool. And in my point of view, it kind of confirms, or it can confirm, that all the Studio Ghibli movies are like within them, like within each other in like a kind of a multiverse, not really sort of way, just because of what happens plot wise with a couple things. I don't really want to spoil anything for people that want to go see it, but because you could infer that how that functions equals the rest of the movies based off of a couple conversations the characters have. But the animation was fantastic. The voice acting was amazing. I want to see it in English too, because I heard that the English performances were really good, but we went and saw it in Japanese. The score was beautiful. Just everything about it was perfect. I really enjoyed it. I've been reading a lot of My Hero Academia recently. I've also been reading Jujutsu Kaisen and watching Jujutsu Kaisen as that's been coming out, which has been really emotional for the last couple weeks. But to get kind of real for a second, I've had a couple absences recently. And one of our family dogs, she was almost 10 years old and had a lot of health problems. And so we had to put her down. And so that's why I was gone the last 2 weeks. But good news, she's not in pain anymore. And that's what matters. So sorry I've been gone, everybody. I'm glad to be back, but just had to deal with some not so fun stuff. but that's okay. Life happens. Tito, what have you been doing outside of Hearthstone?
So this Friday, we took my kids and my grandkid and everything. We went to see the Polar Express at the movie theater where you dine in. And we've done that a few years. The kids get a golden ticket. And every year it just gets worse, the amount of effort they put into it. Like, if you're familiar with the movie, they put the lights up and then they give everybody hot chocolate. Now they're only giving hot chocolate to some of the kids. And more importantly, we bought tickets that said cookies and milk, part of this, and the hot chocolate, and they were a certain price. We had food and everything, and we paid the bill. For the bill, even though we bought the tickets at that price, they charged us like $6 each for this like little carton of milk and like 3 cookies in a box. And I cannot tell you how, like, we're never doing that again, because it was bad advertising, it was deceptive, and it so wasn't worth it. I love that the kids had a good time, but man, that was just so annoying. Outside of that, work's been fine. I'm working on commercials for things that are like internal commercials. So I was able to, I think I've mentioned this a little before, use a little of the stuff that I've done in content creation to have ideas, and I even mocked up a couple things and got them over to people to see, and I was able to use green screens and editing and stuff, and it's nice to see my hobbies actually making it into work a little bit. But outside of that, not a whole lot. It's wet and rainy, warm, and I'm just looking forward to getting through the Christmas season, having the nice times with the family, and then moving on to just normal times again where you do normal things. So I want to go over a little bit of the news. I don't want to go over everything, but there's a new shop. And I personally I kind of was waiting for this to be in the Hearthstone 2 client whenever we got that. And maybe this is like our first step towards that. But what are your guys' thoughts on the shop? Pocky, how about you go first?
I think it's a great, update. I think anytime they're updating the client like that, it's it bodes well kind of for the game.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds silly sometimes to be like, oh, well, like, I mean, like, you don't want to come off as a shill, but like, the game needs to make money for them to continue to support it. So having the shop be a more, satisfactory experience is a nice thing for sure. I know, like, it's not focused around Battlegrounds stuff, but I know, like, for a long time I was complaining about, like, there were like Battlegrounds bundles that would come into the shop, and I would just never see them, and like, so it's like, well, no wonder, like no one cares about the cosmetics, but like people don't even know. I'm in this game all the time. I have no idea that this thing came out or anything like that. So I think the shop updates are good. I'd be super open to more of the client updates too. So.
Well, actually, that brings up a question.
That's on the horizon.
That brings up a question I wanted to ask you. So we have the Battlegrounds Pass, which has been there for probably a year now or more, right? And it has
more, yeah, for sure.
And it has the portraits on it and the emotes and all that. And I know they're trying to kind of figure out a way to monetize Battlegrounds, and I think they've done a good job. Is the luster of getting new portraits and new emotes and new finishers or whatever they're called, has that worn off? Like, do you still see these heroes come in for skins and say, oh, I really like that one, and you still buy it? Or has the initial kind of wave of the excitement of having different heroes kind of worn off?
I would say that for the people, like, there's a lot of skins now, so they did make a change semi-recently where you can choose multiple favorites for things, and it will kind of do a shuffle. So you can use more than one skin, because one of the issues that was coming up was, you have your favorite skin for a hero, and if one didn't supplant it as your favorite, it was irrelevant because you would never see it.
Right.
So they kind of addressed that. Some people just aren't into cosmetics, so I think that's part of it. But my own personal opinion is I like having fun skins. Like it's not like something I'm like crazy into. I'm not like, oh, I need to have every single one or anything like that. But if you get a cool one, it's like, oh, cool. This one, I like this one. I'll change to it. Like it's pretty low key. I do wish in terms, you kind of talked about the luster and excitement. I think the battle pass. I play Fortnite with my sister sometimes, and I think they're like probably the best kind of live service game. Like they're just so good at keeping things updated, keeping people engaged and interested in their battle pass. They have currency in it. They have a lot of cool skills, but you're excited, right? You're like excited to do the battle pass. And I think the biggest thing with the Battlegrounds pass is that people just aren't. There's not like there's not that dopamine hit, where you're like, oh, I earned the like the quest. You kind of just ignore because they happen, and you don't want to make them too hard. Like I understand that. But it doesn't feel like an achievement or anything like that. So if I was going to say that there's anything to improve in that regard, that would be like, in terms of like monetization for Battlegrounds, I think making the battle pass more engaging for players would be the number one thing. And even, I mean, playing standard and the passes for that, each expansion, I thought those were much better about it.
Yeah.
Not perfect by any means, but like the rewards were a little bit more exciting. Generally, the coin is a cool reward every time. So even if we got closer to what standards got, I would be happy.
Fair enough. Do you have any other thoughts that you would want to change on that battle pass? Like any other suggestions for Team 5? That like this is something you could do to the battle pass that would make it better?
Like I said, I just like treating like even the redeeming is so like go through, click, like it's just like a pain.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like I don't have a perfect solution. Clicking and claiming is that is standard, but like maybe make an animation for that's more exciting or something. Like I don't know. But just like to make it feel, just to capture that excitement. I mean, the skins sometimes are cool, sometimes they're lackluster. I think, the passes are themed. So this one is like a Western kind of, Badlands theme, right? Which is great. But some people that's not like their vibe or style, and some of the other ones, right? Been like music themed, or there's ones that are just more or less likely to vibe. And I kind of like the idea of the themes, but it also makes it feel like if there's one that you don't vibe with, you're just like particularly uninterested for a whole season in that pass. So if you had a little bit more variety to cover different people's flavors, which like I said, it's hard, right? Because everyone does have their own individual tastes, but
that's fair.
Maybe that would help as well.
What I think would be cool is if they had the legendary bartenders. Like you have the legendary heroes now that have animated, so have a legendary bartender. But to make it special, they should talk back and forth with your hero. So instead of just Bob saying things, they can have a conversation or something. Like Bob can say, "Hey, you're doing really good there," and someone, if they're evil, like, "Yeah, keep talking, buddy," or whatever. Just some kind of like way to make that a little more interesting. I think that could be fun. But
yeah, for sure. I mean, the bartenders and the boards are things that I think are even better. Like, and probably should be used more, because they can be in like all of your games.
Yep. So Doc, what are your thoughts on the new shop, and how about all the Battleground stuff we just talked about?
Yeah. So I think anytime that the team is able to optimize and make, like Pocky said, make things more satisfactory and appealing to like going through and looking at them is a big, big win. And with how they do stuff, like sometimes a change is a test for a future change. So who knows? Maybe it's possible that the change to the shop is going to correlate to some other future change they're going to do in another part of the game. Because that's how things kind of have worked in the past with some of the things that they've been testing. And yeah, I mean, I feel like the cosmetics is kind of an issue. Like, not everyone is super engaged in Hearthstone cosmetics. Like, yeah, like it's cool to get like specific hero portraits and everything. But a game like Fortnite, I feel like has so many more home runs when it comes to cosmetics than Hearthstone does. Granted, Fortnite also goes outside their universe of game and get cosmetics through there. But that's something that Blizzard has said that they theoretically could be interested in surveys in the past. Like, I had a survey about that. And, you know, like, I wouldn't be upset about it, but I understand like Hearthstone purists that want Hearthstone to remain like its special little place because it is a special game. But they need to continue to make money to support this game that we all love. And I personally am okay with them doing that in any non-predatory way. Like, I feel like their monetization where it's at is in a pretty good spot overall. And if there was more engaging things for players to actually like desire to get and like have like a battle pass that was like more like with maybe specific quests or specific quest chains that were difficult that would equal you being able to get a very special cosmetic that's difficult to get rather than just make sure you jam 300 games of Battlegrounds and you'll get it eventually. But I mean, overall, I think that the changes are good.
Yeah, a lot of people complain when there are some things, cosmetics gate kept. Like, apparently there's a Heroic Tavern Brawl coming out pretty soon, and there's no cosmetic hero portrait for getting 12 wins. And a lot of people complain because they want to collect them all. But to me, I think that's silly. I think that there should be things that you can earn that says, hey, I have accomplished this, and very few people have. There are amounts in Warcraft. There's even when you first get your legend card back, how often, like, you have that legend card back for, you probably use it for the first year, right? Before you change it. So, I mean, I think it's okay to have things that say, I earned this in a game that is purely cosmetic. And I'm kind of sad that they have to kind of steer away from that because the community isn't too keen on it, at least some of the vocal minority.
Well, so at least, I mean, so I agree with you. I think that is there should be things that are achievements that you can flex with the Heroic Brawl. There is such a big barrier to entry in how much it costs to get in on top of the skill differential that it would take to get that. So if it was like a free thing and it was like, yeah, if you do this free thing and you do it perfectly, you get this. I feel like that would be better to have an exclusive versus something else. Yeah, I mean, overall, I think the team knows what they're doing, and I generally agree with all the changes that they've been doing. Yeah, Hearthstone, still a fantastic game, still very fun game. The developers love this game so much and want it to be a game that we all continue to enjoy. And 10-year anniversary is coming up here pretty soon. So,
yeah, and that's probably going to be, that might even involve like the announcement for the rotation, where it's the 10th year. I'm sure that something's going to change, or something's going to be exciting, or something's going to be very exciting. So I'm looking forward to that. I was going to talk about the nerfs and buffs a little bit, but I don't think either. I know, Pocky, you said you don't play standard really, and Doc, I think you said you haven't really been playing much either. So,
I mean, I looked at the patch notes, but like what they said is that these were high confidence changes. Mm-hmm. So they overall like where the meta is at, right? And so they didn't want to shake it up by doing some crazy buff or some crazy nerf, and so they just touched a couple cards that their play patterns were a little bit unhealthy. And it's just to make Worlds a more enjoyable experience for the participants and for the viewers. So yeah. I think that the nerfs and the buffs were fine.
I think the nerfs were fine. I think there could have been a lot more, but it is what it is. I get what they're doing, and I don't think the buffs have been relevant at all. I don't think I've seen one buff card played outside of a very rare so every once in a while I run into a taunt warrior, and depending on the deck you're playing, you either stomp it or you don't. So, so I have another thing I want to talk about, and this is a little outside of Hearthstone. I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was a Snap Invitational, or there is a Snap Invitational coming up, and out of the 16 competitors, only one was a woman, and I don't know if there was any minorities represented as well. I don't know either way, but there's a lot of, again, we go through this every single time it comes up, but there's a lot of people complaining. They're saying, hey, that's fine. It's if they're taking the top 16 players or whatever it might be, and then there's the other side of it's an invitational. You can still invite very competitive women and minorities to represent everybody and still have a competitive invitational. So I personally think that Second Dinner here is kind of dropping the ball, especially since some of that team have already lived through this with Hearthstone when we've already had these kind of problems in the past. So I think that they really need to take a look at these things. And I think with most of these invitationals, I think that's a great opportunity to just show your game off and show how diverse it can be. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I saw that. So I don't play Snap anymore. I've dabbled in it a few times, but Nina's Noob is the one woman who was originally invited.
Oh, did she drop?
And we're good friends. No. No, they actually added some other creators dropped out to make space, and they added some more invites that did help with the diversity, but I know it's tough. A lot of my friends in the content creation space are diverse in one way or another, from the typical gaming demographic, you might say. Yep. But I've always kind of I didn't even like that, right? Because like you say things like that, and it's actually not true, right? Like saying the typical gaming demographic, it's what people think it is.
Correct.
But like, talking about Fortnite, like I play Fortnite with my sister. Like she, like, she's not white. She's, I mean, she's young, but like, and she's a woman, like, all these things. Like it's gatekeepy to say that, oh, well, so-and-so, the like a lot of the responses to the tweet were talking about things like, and we've seen this in Hearthstone too, right? That, oh, well, it's proportionate to what the creators are. And it misses the point that having representation that you can see visible is how you get to something more equitable, like more diverse. Because the reason that you don't have as many creators is because of these situations where people are saying, well, oh, they're not one of us, or something like that, right? They're not, like, what? It's like crazy to me where, like, imagine like someone said, oh, well, girls can't have fun playing a board game. Like, huh? What? Like, it's a game. Like, everyone can have fun. Like, it's just the whole point, the whole reason that we're playing is to have fun, to enjoy it. And how you enjoy it, whether that's being competitive or it's, playing some crazy deck or board or whatever it is, right? It's just to have fun. How are you telling people, like, oh, well, this kind of person would have fun with it? Like, if someone enjoys watching the NBA, if someone enjoys driving cars or horses, it doesn't matter. Why does it matter who you are if you enjoy it? And so, I think the important thing is that, these, whoever's in charge of like doing these invitations and stuff really has to understand that to grow your game, you're not trying to grow it in a limited community, right? You're trying to expand it everywhere to everyone, right? if you have a good game, it's going to be enjoyed by everyone because that's the whole point. And so, I'm glad that they're making some changes, but it is disappointing that you see that it's like, how are we not past this yet? I mean, we dealt with the same thing in Battlegrounds years ago, and there were other creators that basically did the same thing, and they took it upon themselves to step down and say, hey, Blizzard, Hearthstone, can you invite like a more, a more diverse group? Because you have the ability to do that. It's invites. It's not,
Yep.
if it's something where like everyone's like getting there and it just happens that, it's a certain group that can't do anything about it. But with invitationals, you have the power to influence to make a diverse group of people, and it matters. It really does matter. As someone that I'm half Asian, half Chinese. Like, not to say that my experiences are better or worse, but like, I know firsthand what it feels like to see people or be acknowledged as, a minority or not be acknowledged as a minority. And it makes a difference when you see someone like you and you're like, I could do that. That could be me. Nothing stops that from being me. Whereas if you see something and you see, a situation where the tournament, oh, they only invite men. Well, only men are like, it's discouraging. It feels bad. And it matters not just to, the other creators in that, whether it's Snap or Hearthstone or any, space, not even just gaming, it matters to the creators, but it matters to the community too. It absolutely matters. And so it blows my mind when these groups, it's like, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating to me that it's still an issue. So yeah, I did see it. I'm sorry to go on
no, you're fine.
Super long rant about it, but I saw all the stuff. I follow it. Like I said, Nina's a close friend. I met Eggs at TwitchCon. Like, it's just it's crazy that it's still an issue, and I really hope that it's I just improved in the future.
It's mind-boggling that there's still tournament organizers that that can't read the room and haven't seen this happen every single time somebody does an invitational like this, that they don't just course correct right from the beginning and say, let's make sure we do this right. Doc, what are your thoughts?
It's not hard to look at a list of people, which probably also has like their picture and their name on it, and be like, we have a huge number of people that are relatively from the same region. Let's change it up. Like, it's like if you were to play like Scrabble and all the letters are in a bag, right? You don't stick your hand in and grab only the letter A, but like 6 of them. Like, you're going to get consonants, you're going to get Q, you're going to get X, like you're going to get a mix. Like, it's not hard. And the fact that they make it seem like it's this insurmountable task to just make that the default of just having a good mix of people that represent your game. Like, you have to look at they have to look at the content creators. They have to look at their streams. They have to know their people that are making the content. It's not hard to make their group of people diverse, right? Like, it feels like it takes more energy to do it the way that they've done it than to do it the way they should do it. But I can't express it any better than Pocky did. So I'm done.
And fair enough. And okay, so we're going to transition off of that. Now, we've had Pocky on the show a couple times now. In fact, we had a double episode with him, and we really appreciate that back in the day. But while we've already interviewed him, I figured we want to get a little bit more knowledge about who Pocky is and what he likes and doesn't like. So, Doc, why don't we continue our interview, point 2, with Pocky.
Yeah. So you've been playing other auto battlers, Pocky.
Yeah.
Which ones have you been playing, and why is the backpack game so popular?
So, yeah. So, yeah, one of them has been backpack battles. Yep. I started playing it, so I'll give credit. Sun Glitters and Hafu started playing it before me. But I started playing it and I got addicted, and I'd be lying if I didn't start telling everyone to play it. I really tried to get people to play it because it is addicting. It's a very fun game. It's the easiest way to describe it is if you combined your Diablo inventory management with super auto pets, and you really had to optimize, like placing your items in your in your bag. It sounds silly, but because it's asynchronous matchmaking, like super auto pets, you can really you can min max as much as you want, right? Like if you're like, this is good, close enough, I'm fine. Like you can do that. If you want to spend 20 minutes on a turn, you can do that. It's all good. You can really enjoy the game at your own pace and try as much as you want. It's a really fun game. It's still in development. It's not like fully complete yet or anything. But it was interesting to play. I haven't been playing it as much the past few weeks, but it's a really great game. I recommend people try it. It's a really small dev team. I think they have 2 devs. So if you want to just try something new, might as well try that. It's free on Steam, so I get nothing from promoting them. It's just a fun game to play for a little bit. And then I've been playing the new set of TFT as well.
Yes.
So
very good.
The set 10 of Teamfight Tactics, if people don't know what TFT is, has been really good. It's kind of interesting that like Super Auto Pets is like the simple version, like Battlegrounds is kind of in the middle of like Auto Battler complexity, and then TFT is like, if you really want to like dive deep and get into all these complex interactions, and like it's a difficult game,
yeah,
but it is fulfilling when it like clicks or when you make something really cool happen. And so I've been playing quite a bit of TFT. I'm hoping I hit master for the first time last set, and I'm hoping to get there again for set 10. So then I can say I've hit, master on backpack battles, TFT, and I don't know, whatever you want to. I've achieved, a good rank in BG. I got to, rank 2 at the beginning of the season last year. I've been like rank 11 in the meat of seasons and front page on EU and NA. So I feel like I whatever, they don't have master in BGs, but I feel like I achieved that. So yeah. I just want to, that competitive drive in me is pushing me.
I like the way you were talking about that. The backpack game it sounds like a great game for streamers, because if you can just sit there and talk and chat about it and min max with your chat,
it's great.
And it's not, if you need to go to the bathroom, you can do that, and it's not this big panic. So that sounds great.
Oh, it's so good. Mm-hmm.
So when you aren't playing Auto Battlers, Pocky, what kind of games do you play or enjoy?
A lot. I like fun stuff. Like like I said, just there to enjoy it. I like I said, I play Fortnite with my sister a lot. I've been meaning to. I was playing it when it came out for a while. I was addicted. It won like Game of the Year, Baldur's Gate 3. Fantastic game. I need to get back and finish. I got to Act 3 and then kind of, I heard it was buggy, so I was waiting, and I had just been distracted with other stuff. But I need to get back into that. And then whatever else comes around, like Pokemon and Zelda games are great. Kind of classics, right? Random game, the Suika game, which is like the game where you like, it's like, do you guys remember 2048?
Yes.
Where you like the two, like you try to get the numbers, and I've it's like that with fruit, and like you try to match fruits in like a cup or a jar or something. It's on the Switch. It's like $3, and it is a fun game. It sounds silly, but it's a fun game. Like you can go find it on like a Twitch stream, and you're like surprised that you're like sitting there watching this person just drop fruits in a cup, and you're like, how have I been watching this for an hour? Excuse me, this is not okay. But you're like, it's just kind of, it's it's a chill, relaxing game. So I've been playing that a little bit. So yeah, quite the range.
In BGs, do you have like a very favorite hero that you pick every time they're offered?
Panda.
Nice.
Panda every time. I have 100% pick rate. I've never not picked it. Like if you go on HS3 Play, 100% pick rate. I don't think anyone that plays at a high level has a 100 pick rate on any hero that's been out for any like long period of time. I will always take Panda. I don't care if it's a good meta, a bad. I always take it. I'll take it over a new hero. I'll take it over the best hero. Panda. Yeah.
Okay. So is there one that you hate to play or play against the most?
I'm so accepting the Panda thing. Normally I'm not good with favorites, so most is tough, but I really dislike Barov. I like playing as Barov. It's good. I don't like thinking that much. To be honest, I just don't like thinking that much. It's frustrating when I don't want to say like, I'm decent at the game. So I can think through all these scenarios and stuff. And I'm like, this person should win. Like everything says this is the right bet. And then they don't win. And you're like, what the heck? Like, oh, I just like lose money and like I get nothing. You're just, it's going to be so tilting and frustrating.
Yeah.
So I'll throw that one. And it's funny because it was bugging the game. It just came back in this latest patch. And I'm like, why? It was so good when it wasn't in. I had no problem with it being gone.
You want him to live where Tyrion lives.
Yeah.
Man,
Nice.
I forgot about Tyrion.
People really liked Tyrion.
Yeah. It was fun to run neutral comp.
Yeah. People have been like, oh, if it came back now, do you think it would still be broken? Because it was broken when it came out, but it's just like the game has like power cut so far that it's like, no, it would be terrible if it came back now. But I do wonder if they would ever reintroduce it or some of the other the retired heroes, because now they don't really retire heroes because they come out with skins and stuff for them. It used to be a thing where they would, there's like 8 or 10 retired heroes that from the beginning of the game that people don't even remember, unless you've been playing and like really played even back then. Like they don't remember like Giant Fin. Bartendotron was one that
Bartendotron
was just worse than Omu, and I know that one's never going to come back because they made it a bartender instead.
Man,
but yeah.
So do you have a favorite comp and a least favorite comp?
So this meta is really interesting because I was telling someone I think like the balance between the different types is really good right now. Like I think everything, it's not like perfectly balanced, but everything is viable, which is cool, except for like Murlocs are pretty hard to make work, which is also fine because Murlocs have been dominant for like 3 years. So like, okay, Murlocs aren't the greatest, like that's okay, like no problem. So I don't think I really have a favorite and least favorite. Maybe, okay, that's maybe not true. I do enjoy Rylak Felemental, and I play it more than anyone else I see play it. And I'm good at it. I don't even know how to put it. I'm good at it, and I don't know how or why. Like people are like, "How are you so good at? How do you always get this comp?" And I'm like, I don't know. I just like I just vibes with like how I play, I guess. But I really don't know. I can't explain it. And I'm usually good at articulating like this is why this is good, and this is why like, I don't know. I don't know why I'm good at Ride Like Elemental, but I get it a lot, and I enjoy it. So maybe you can throw that. I'll say that's my favorite.
Okay. So you've done a lot of casting recently. Do you prefer casting or do you prefer playing?
On a high level tournament, I used to prefer playing. I probably prefer casting now. The issue I have with playing, and it's not a real issue, but like what comes up is you like in a tournament, there's only so many games, and you kind of like you can be at the mercy of RNG. Not to say that everything's RNG, like a good player is going to win, and I'm not the best player. I am, especially compared to some of these top players. I'm not like G for or XUN good. Like I can beat them in any given game. Like I can compete with them. But like 10 games, they're going to win more than me. They are, but it can, be frustrating. But if you're casting, 100% of the games are exciting and fun. Like I'm always into it. And in the high level plays, I enjoy breaking it down for people. I enjoy kind of injecting my energy into the cast and stuff. So I would go with casting.
Okay, well, thank you. So have you ever like pushed or desire to push again for Lobby Legends?
No, I've never. I pushed for casting. I've pushed for casting it. I would rather cast Lobby Legends. Lobby Legends is really tough, and I know, like I've played in practice scrims. Like I've played in practice scrims for the Lobby Legends players, and that, like I've won there, but I've won because I've spent so much time watching Lobby Legends. Like I've probably watched more Lobby Legends than maybe anyone. Like I've watched like pretty much all of them, and I watch them in detail, casting them. And so even like some of the players, I have a good understanding of the meta of Lobby Legends, which is very tempo heavy. Like the players play extra conservatively, so I can kind of like abuse the fact that I kind of already know the meta, which I do because I'm just trying to help them practice, right? Like I want them to experience what it's going to be like. But I don't actually think that in the tournament, like I'm not saying I wouldn't have a chance, but it's hard, and it is a grind to push for Lobby Legends. Hitting that top 4 of leaderboards, like I don't think I can do that. Like you really have to consistently be great. And I have too much fun playing Ride Like Elemental,
Yeah.
Just get distracted by the fun stuff.
So speaking of Lobby Legends, what do you think Lobby Legends will look like next year in 2024?
I don't know. I think it'll be interesting. We have Worlds coming up. We'll see if they announce some of the new stuff for esports, or if esports. I thought this year's set of Lobby Legends had the potential to be better than the prior year, but it ended up being disappointing. They literally did almost no promotion of the tournaments. They didn't bring in BG's experts, which the casters are great. Sottle, like they do know the game, but it's a different level when you have some of these like Battlegrounds pros.
Yeah,
and really, really know what they're doing. And so I don't know. I don't know how much they're dedicated to making it a thing or successful. And so we'll see. I would love for it to come back, but if I'm being honest, my hopes are not high for what Lobby Legends will be. I think there's so much potential in esports that it's really disappointing to see how gutted it was this past year. If you look at, you're talking about Magic the Gathering, right? Like these, like having these like sort of bigger tournaments is what promotes people to run more grassroots events, which are so big for creating, in fostering like the community, the competitive community, which is where you get people that are committed to your game and will stick around, and it entices other people to join because they find, that group to play with every Friday, or, like THL is like a big thing with that, where it's, like it's a community, and you become more engaged with the game and you become more committed to the game. And that's a good thing for a game. And so, seeing that and seeing this year, there's been a lot less Battlegrounds tournaments because of that, because people kind of look in and say, well, what's the point, right? Like, what's the ultimate goal of doing all this if there's not a real chance for me to compete at the highest level? Like, am I practicing? Like, I'm not practicing for something, and it you lose some of that motivation. And I think we really saw that and saw the hit this year in Standard and in Battlegrounds. And so I would love for it to come back, but I'm not super optimistic, but I can still be hopeful.
It's funny you should say kind of how tournaments seem to disappear a little bit when the main tournaments disappear. I always felt that way about how the standard games kind of changed, and we're Standard's doing the same thing as Battlegrounds is. They've limited it. You have to really grind. It's the same 20 people that are working for it all the time, the best of the best. But there used to be a thing with Hearthstone where you sitting at your chair right there, you have a chance to qualify for these tournaments. And all you have to do is show up to a tournament, hit it.
Yep, the opens.
Hit a run of lucky. You don't have to. You have to be a good player, but you get the right kind of games going. You hit the right meta, and you have a chance to go and be one of these people going to Las Vegas or wherever to compete against the best. And like, obviously, very few people do. It's always still going to be the same good players anyway. But to have that kind of dream there, that carrot that says, well, I'm playing really well. Maybe I should try to do this tournament. Maybe I can get there. That was such a nice part of Hearthstone. It's so sad that that's gone. So yeah, I can feel that.
Yeah, I one of my old teammates on Swagoi, Anamor, he won a THQ back when Tavern Hero qualifiers were a thing, and then made it to the Tavern Hero tournament. And I think he like got 9th or something. Like, he got close, but like, it was early Hearthstone esports was such a fun, like, okay, we have a Tavern Hero qualifier. It's at the Microsoft store. Like, that's the one I went to because I was in Washington State. So I went to University of Washington campus to the Microsoft store, played in a Hearthstone tournament there. Like, early Hearthstone esports was just so S tier in accessibility and just having a road for the normal player who has the drive to have an opportunity to try to make a name for themselves. And then now it's just unfortunately so hard because you have to top 4 leaderboards. That's it. Like, that is the only way you can do anything hyper competitive in Hearthstone anymore. And that, it's just sad. And like, a lot of people feel, I hope that this next year bodes well. It won't be perfect, but I hope it's definitely better than how this year was for Hearthstone esports.
And plus, this year, in the last couple of years for Hearthstone esports, you're missing the stories, because that's what made it interesting, where you could follow along and, hey, this person rose above the competition, all that. Like, how much story is there behind Meaty? He's a great player. He'll throw some bait decks out there once in a while. He grinds like no one's business, and he gets there all the time. Yeah, but what's the story? We know it. We know, So I don't know. I think we're not going to see much next year, but I'm hoping that a year Microsoft takes over and they evaluate and they reinstitute some of the things that made Hearthstone just awesome. And in all the games, in fact.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm. So, Pocky, you said that you weren't able to go to BlizzCon and that you're excited for duos. How much duos content were you able to watch? Did you get to see all the new heroes?
I did not. I did not. I was like, I didn't watch a ton of the BlizzCon content streams. So I didn't get to see all the new heroes. I think duos will be interesting. I'm a little concerned. I mean, we'll see, but I'm a little concerned with what the support in the longer term will look like. It'll be interesting because obviously balance is going to be extraordinarily hard, and I think what'll end up happening is it'll end up being more of like a casual mode that you play with friends, and if you're worried about like, rank too much, it probably won't be fun for you. Just 'cause, like there'll probably be some balance stuff. It'll be hard for the dev team to tune that completely, but yeah, we'll see.
All right. Well, the reason why we have Pocky on is obviously to talk Battlegrounds, which we have, and but we're more specifically bringing him to talk about spells in the tavern. So before we get to that, we've had several different iterations of Battlegrounds now where they've mixed things up. We've had the basic vanilla Hearthstone. Battlegrounds. We've had tickets, we've had buddies, we've had quests, anomalies, Diablo, and now we have spells. Do you have a favorite and a least favorite out of these? It sounded like you were getting a little sour on anomalies. I know we have friends like Howard Moon that can't stand buddies. Everyone has their feelings on these things. Where are your feelings on these?
Favorite? Well, least favorite. Interestingly, I hated the first iteration of buddies. That might be my least favorite. The second iteration of buddies I liked quite a lot. I don't know if I'd say it was my favorite, but it was a lot, like night and day from the first iteration of buddies. So it's kind of cool to see how that iteration really improved things there. Besides original buddies, anomalies might be my least favorite. And like I said, I was really into the idea and concept of them, but in practice, a lot of them changed the game a little bit too much. It made like the power creep and like, power level of different things like a bit too high for the game to be fun for me, where it was just like, you're kind of just playing around damage cap a lot. Cause like you either win really hard and will do 15 to someone, or you'll lose and take 15, because like it's just such an aberration of power level on different people's boards. So yeah, I didn't like that. I thought quests were great. Tickets were fun like originally. I don't know if they'd be as exciting now, because after we've experienced some of the other stuff, but spells have been fantastic. We're only, like a weekish in, but they've been really, really good. I love their design. They're not perfect. Don't get me wrong. They're like, there's definitely some balance issues, but they feel like they're in a really good spot, and they feel like they're making Battlegrounds like a more dynamic game. And I don't think that, I don't know. They didn't say anything, but I feel like spells are going to be like a permanent change as opposed to like an event mechanic, which I think is interesting. Like, obviously that's a pretty big, change, right? Like that's a permanent change to the game is a lot harder to say that's good or bad, but so far it's been good. And if they keep up the balance and don't do anything too crazy with the spells, which so far it doesn't seem like anything is crazy out of hand, I think it's just going to be a positive change for Battlegrounds going forward.
Okay, so we are more of a standard podcast than a Battlegrounds podcast, although we do obviously delve into them from time to time. So for our listeners that maybe haven't played Battlegrounds in a while, how would you describe spells in what's the elevator pitch?
Yeah, I mean, spells are they're just in the tavern, like you said. So normally you see your minions in the shop. Now you'll see those same minions, but also a spell. It'll be one spell per shop unless There's some modifiers that can change that. There's some spells that can give you all spells in your shop. But yeah, so you'll see one spell per shop. They have their individual costs, so they don't all cost 3. So that's another way that they can sort of balance them. And it's really cool because they make it so you can sort of flex around your curve and you can float gold in different ways, or not float, I should say, or you can use your gold in different ways, so that previously on certain turns, you might have a hero power where you want to use it and you have a gold left over, you have 2 gold left over, something just doesn't make sense. And now there's a chance that you got a spell that can kind of fill that gap. And so that's the really cool thing. It doesn't modify the game in a huge way. It just gives you another option. And that's the really cool part that I've been enjoying so far, is that it gives you more options, which gives you, some people have been saying like, oh, wow, this meta is like really hard to play. And it is, because there are more options. But as it's not that hard to play, in that like those options can be very simple if you don't, get too flustered by it, right? Where it's like, oh, I have 2 extra gold, I'll just buy this 2 gold spell. I have 2 extra gold and I don't want to buy this spell, I'll just roll and hopefully I'll hit a 1 gold spell. Like, it is a little bit that simple. So, don't get intimidated, just like, it's a little bit more reading, but they gave us extra time every turn. So you can read the new spells and have a little bit more time. So I highly recommend trying it out if you haven't played BGs in a while.
So you touched on this a little bit, but if you've been playing Battlegrounds for any length of time, there's the curve sheet out there. There are certain curves we play depending on the heroes that you choose. There's a Rafam curve, there's a Jeeve curve, there's all kinds of curves. How much has that changed now with spells? Because now we have these little in gaps to, instead of having to, like, that 5 mana turn can be really interesting now that you can get a minion and a 2 spell. And how much has it changed the way we curve and level now?
I think it's changed it both a lot and not a lot. So one thing as a coach that I have told people is, when you're trying to get better at Battlegrounds previously, before spells, knowing your curves is great. It's kind of like a baseline of understanding, when you're going to level and what you're going to do. But you should not be stuck to it too hard, right? Like in Standard, you might have a play, but then you top deck something and it changes how you're going to play, because you're like, oh, wait, now I have this option. That's kind of how you should always approach Battlegrounds. You can have this idea of like what you want to do, but you should keep an open mind, of when you're deviating from that. And so curves are really all just these general structures of when to level and how to spend your gold. And so that all is the same. Of you probably want to generally level on turn 2. You always don't want to float gold unless there's a purpose. Now, there's a few cards that you float gold for in effect, but aside from that, you want to use your gold. And so all that stuff is sort of the same, and spells actually smooth out a lot of curves, but you have to not be too stuck on, oh, well, I need to do this, right? There's still certain benchmarks, like you probably want to level to 2 on turn 2, but like sometimes you don't. You probably want to level to tier 4 on like around turn 6, but sometimes you don't, right? Just depending on what spells are there, and just, in the interim, just use your gold efficiently, right? Like make your board as strong as possible with the minions in the shop, with the spells in the shop. If that's using 5 gold to buy a 3 gold minion and a 2 gold spell, like perfect, you've done it. And it's really nice because, like what I've found is in the past, there were a lot of hero balance issues where it's like this hero's curve didn't make much sense, right? Like it's a cool hero power, but their early game is just really tough because like you lack money sometimes. Like that's a big thing, right? Like it's not an econ hero or something. So your early game is really tough. now the spells kind of smooth it out for all heroes that, like, because everything is so much more flexible with these 1 and 2 gold spells, especially early, or even the spell, like the spell that costs health, right? But you get a gold. That can like help smooth it out for so many heroes. And so I think the dev team did a really good job on making it so it smooths out these curves for everyone. So you have a much better game where you don't need to memorize like, okay, this hero, I do this curve and like I have to do this to make all this happen. Like, it's a lot more flexible now, which will be difficult for some people, but it's a lot more even, and you know, in the long run, there's a lot more possibilities.
All right, so there's a lot of spells now. I think some are probably, and that's probably one of the things they're going to be able to do. There's tiers of spells where, you know, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, just like anything else. What spells do you think are like the best spells that people should be kind of aiming for? I'm sure it varies from, you know, each battleground depending what you're doing, but what are the best ones and what are some of the ones that people tend to overvalue early on?
Well, some of the strong ones like early game are the ones where you can like get a minion for 2 gold because of, you know, how it smooths things out. So again, like using that 5 gold turn as an example, you know, usually the issue was, well, if I don't get a token, I can't buy 2 minions on that turn. So I'm unlucky if I don't get a token. Now, if you get that one of those 2 gold spells, you can have your 3 minions on board, and that's a great thing. So those are all strong. I think in the mid game, the stats spells are strong, particularly I don't remember the exact name. It's the one that gives you a 3/2 buff to all minions of that share a type with that minion that you targeted on. And so it's really strong on dual type minions because it will impact both. You can buff things in the shop if you are playing like a demon to consume. And it's a lot of value on board, and that can help you have that tempo to level. And then on the higher tiers, there's a lot of strong spells. But what's really cool about them is that most of them are very strong situationally. So they're not always going to be strong. And so that's how they kind of get their balance where, okay, you might not always want it, but, you know, the right one at the right time can be great. And the one that I'll highlight that I think is fun and interesting to think about, because you can think about it from the beginning of the game, is the one that allows you to change your hero power. So obviously that's a really big thing, is that, you know, there's some heroes that Patchwork or AFK, like you get an effect right at the beginning, but then you're playing without a hero power. Well, now once you get to tier 5, if you do hit that spell, which isn't a guarantee, but if you do hit that spell, it gives you the ability to swap out and get a hero power that will provide you more value. And that goes for a lot of different heroes. There's Reno and Crag where you have like these one-time use hero powers. There's some like Chen Vol or Omu where, you know, you level really quickly and then you don't have anything else to do with your hero power, so you can swap those out. Or sometimes it's just a matter of, this isn't working out. I need something else. I need a desperation play to get something. Maybe I'll hit a Lich King hero power to get reborn. Maybe I'll hit that Reno hero power as my swap, and I can quick golden something later where, you know, a lot of times Reno struggles early game where you're like, I'm not going to use my hero power on a two drop. But now, you know, if you hit it later, you're using it on a 5 or 6 drop that can have a lot of impact, and that's really cool. So I think the spells are, you know, like I said, maybe not perfectly balanced. Maybe that 3/2 buff is a little bit strong, but it's all about just kind of recognizing your situation of what will be strong and how the gold works out. And they all can be pretty impactful based on their tier. So, you know, like the banana is probably not the best, you know, late game for 2/2, but you know, some of those tier 6s and stuff, you know, are really strong and appropriately so.
There's not even tokens anymore, are there? Are there any? I mean, I know you can get some cycle ones where you sell Tad, you get a Murloc, but are there any token generators?
There's no summon tokens, but that kind of just came to mean like anything you can get an extra gold out of. So primarily, Shell Collector, the Naga, Celemental, the Elemental, and then Sousy Busker, the Pirate that you would hold a turn. so that you could have 6 gold. But that's been getting a lot of different use now with spells. So that one, it gives you that gold, which is really useful, but you're not always holding it to play on turn 2 anymore. Sometimes you'll play it to get that extra gold on turn 2 instead of turn 3.
One thing I just thought about, because I hadn't thought about this until you were just talking about some of the things. There are a certain amount of minions per, like, you get 12 of the same kind of minion on tier 1 or whatever like that, and all the people share that same pool. So if someone has all the one type of minion are gone, you're not going to see it in the shop. How does that work with spells?
Spells are very interesting. So I actually tweeted about this, and in Mitchell Lone, the lead designer for Battlegrounds, talked about it. There is a pool for spells, but spells are only out of the pool in someone's shop. If you generate them, they're immediately returned to the pool, and if you buy one, it's immediately returned to the pool. So you won't have that issue where you're just not finding certain spells because they're all out of the pool. Because generally there's only going to be about 7 out of the pool at any given time out of like almost 300 total. I think it's 299 spells in the pool. So if 7 are like, it's a pretty small number that you're looking at that are missing. And those can be, any varying ones based on what tiers everyone else is on. And, there's some plus or minuses on that. Like I said, there's Lay and Lubber that makes it so more spells show up in your shop, and some spells that show up, but, maybe someone's bought one too. So it's not really something you have to worry about. If you are interested in the appearance rate of different spells, I don't have it offhand. I know tier 4s are the most common once you're on like tier 6, and like once you add tier 4, those are going to be the ones that show up the most. And then tier 1s and 6s are the least common in terms of the pool. But if you want to see the rates, check out my Twitter, hashtag, plug, but hashtag ad. But yeah, for the most part, it's not something you have to worry about because, they'll just show up and you just kind of play into it.
All right, fair enough. Now, one thing that we haven't really talked about much, the spells are all exciting. There's always new minions coming in and other old minions leaving. And is there any minions that have left in this patch that you're going to really miss?
Nomi. 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 Yeah. Also Nomi, I guess. Yeah. No. I mean, Nomi it wasn't in a great spot, so I get it. You do need some rotation, but we did have a lot of like some of those OG minions leave as well. We've had some that have come back and left so many times that you're kind of like, it's leaving again. Okay, Mithrax, but yeah, Zap was one of the OGs that left. But Nomi is the one, right? Nomi, the homie, it was fun. It was kind of a meme. It's a panda, so I have to love it. And I really especially when I was more of a competitive player, I really liked playing elementals before people thought they were good, and so I used Nomi a lot. And Nomi has had times when it was very strong, but the new stuff is interesting. Change is good for the game. But I do miss the panda.
Are there any what are the new minions you like the most? What are the good new minions?
Ooh, that's tough. I like a lot of them. It's I don't know which one I like the most. It's been fun because I think everyone, even Jeef and XQN, are still everyone's in a learning phase. If you're wow, I don't know what's going on. Jeef came into my stream the other day. He's like, "Did you create this comp?" I'm like, I don't know. I've been playing it. He's like, "Oh, because I learned it from you." I'm like, "Well, I don't know. Because I just make stuff up. When I play, I just oh, okay, this works. I just make stuff up. Jeef's like, "Oh, it's really good." I'm like, "Yeah, it's good. It's good." And XQN's the same. I've talked to XQN. They're two of the players that I just highlight as being the best, and they're just experimenting and figuring stuff out too, and so am I, and so is basically everyone playing Battlegrounds right now. So I don't know what's the best and what's good. I think Phalanx isn't like new, but it's probably too strong. Like that card is extraordinarily strong. So if I was going to highlight something that's like really good, that would probably be the one that I would say like watch out for that one, because it might be getting nerfed soon. Hopefully, because I think it'll be good for balance.
Right, so you said you were a Elemental Rylak guy. What's the new comp that's your new Elemental Rylak? What's the new most interesting comps that have kind of emerged from the up and coming meta?
I think Phayrix, the new, is kind of like a selfless replacement. It's the tier 3 Divine Shield that gives Divine Shield on Avenge. I think that card's a little bit sleeper. And you can run that with Undead. You can run it with like Eliza Scally comps. And it's a strong card. Kind of slept on. I think Mad Matador is going to be very slept on. The key is being able to buff it up. That is the new taunt that kind of reflects an attack. You can untaunt it, and you can buff it up if you have a way to buff neutrals, or maybe you keep it taunted and use it with like walking forward. But like the golden version basically has 2 divine shields that reflect damage back. It can protect it from venomous and that sort of stuff. Like it's very strong. It can deal with some stats comps if you're lucky. It's not consistent, but people have been saying like it's trash, and if in the right situation, it is far from trash. As for other comps that are like really stand out, like I think Murlocs are weak, but everything else seems pretty viable. I've won with basically everything. I think magnetic mechs are a little bit slow, but things that generate spells are very, very strong. Like the minions that generate spells are all quite strong. The 4/1 beast death rattle gives a minion, a tavern spell. The dragon that gives 2 at the end of every turn. The avenge mech that gives 1. They're all quite strong. The Naga, the tier 6 Naga that gives 1 as a spellcraft discover. All that stuff I would be on the lookout for, because the spells are really good when you get them for free. Like it's a lot of econ.
And with the magnetics, one thing I know people probably don't realize, or a lot of people don't realize, is you can play your spells on minions in the tavern, right?
Yeah, so it depends. Sometimes it'll say like friendly minions, but a lot of them you can play on minions in the tavern and buff them up. If you want it to be buffed up before you hold it in hand, if you like sometimes you're just buffing it up so it'll get eaten with like a demon comp. There's the 1 gold plus 5/5, but it's just for the turn. But it can be nice to use as a cycle if you're trying to like buy things for 1 gold, or you're playing the new hero where you get every 3rd spell free. You can play it into the shop, try and eat it, and those stats will become permanent. So there's a lot of fun things you can do if you use the spells in the shop as well.
Seems like we'd be pretty solid on magnetic too.
Good on a magnetic, good buffs. It's like I said, that one that buffs all of a certain type is really strong. So that's really good with the magnetics. If you can get like 2 magnetics in the shop, you can buff both of them before you add them to hand. You can do it with like a dual type in the shop, right? So it's like, I've got demons and elementals on board. Well, that elemental in the shop is both. So if I don't even need to buy the elemental, but if I use it, I'll buff both types on my board. So it's a lot of flexible plays you can make.
So what are we touched on this a little bit, but what do you think there are some common mistakes people are making in this with spells?
Like I said, I think, you don't want to be too regimented. Like you need to stay flexible. One of the reasons I've really been enjoying the meta is it's kind of like playing Panda, where you can't really predict your next turn. Like you can to a degree, but like you have to be ready for something that like, a different hero power that, oh, wait a second, this, I got to stay down this turn because this is just too good to pass up, or, oh, I was going to buy this, but now maybe I level, right? Or sometimes I've been finding Strike Oil, which is the 3-cost spell that gives you extra maximum gold for the rest of the game, including like after you're at 10, you can go to 11. It's really strong if you get it early. So sometimes like my plan is like, oh, I'm going to level. And then I see that and I'm like, on turn 3, I'm like, I should buy that. Like, we'll level eventually, but like this is a lot of gold throughout the game, right? Because if in 7 turns, it's gonna be 7 more gold that you're getting. So it can pay off, and yeah. So being flexible is probably the biggest thing. Not being too stuck on a certain thing. I do think you do kind of still want to have an idea of what comp you're building early. So like right now, Menagerie is not weak per se, but in the mid game, it's a little bit weaker if you're not taking the advantage of synergies. So if you do want to like kind of try to play like undead, like an undead based opening earlier, or dragons or something, and kind of play a stronger mid game and early game with that sort of stuff, which also allows you to take advantage of that 3-cost spell. And then like from there, like just recognizing like, okay, like I am this comp. Like you don't need to try to pivot into another comp that you'll get like really weak, because there is still like the damage system where you will just lose 2 fights in 2 rounds and then you're dead. So you got to be careful with that and not get like too weak trying to pivot into something else.
Fair enough. I've never tried to pivot into something and died right away. So what are your thoughts?
None of us have really, but it's just something to keep in mind.
So what are your thoughts on the new heroes? Are they good? Are there any we should avoid? And how should people play them?
I think they're all very playable. I would say they're all good. Doc Holiday is probably the one that is toughest, but only because of her armor is low at 8, so you don't have a lot of health to work with. But it can be really strong because if you are able to get your tempo up and level to those higher tiers, you're getting a spell for 1 gold every turn, which is very strong. I do think that they all share a common theme, and it's a theme that I've been talking about over and over and over again with spells of you gotta kind of be ready to flex your play, right? Snake Eyes is, inconsistent in the sense that you don't know what gold you're gonna roll, so you have to know if I roll this, like my play is gonna be different than if I roll 6 gold, maybe I'm leveling and buying a unit, whereas if I roll 3, like, okay, now it's a little different. Maybe I'm just leveling, I'm not buying a unit, maybe I'm buying an extra unit. Like there's you gotta be able to flex there. And same with I don't remember the name of the buy 3 spells one, but like if you see a 1-cost spell that you're gonna cycle, you got to keep that in mind, and it could change your plays for sure. You might roll a little bit more to try and get more value out of your free spell, because if you get a 3 or 4-cost spell, for free, that is probably going to be worth the roll than if you just like buy a 1-cost spell for free, because you're not really getting that much of a benefit. So just being flexible with all of them. They're all strong heroes. They're all maybe too strong, like but recommend, if you haven't, try them out, play them, just keep an open mind, just enjoy the spells that come your way, because they're all about
one
that.
thing I usually find is I will play the new heroes when they come out and usually try to get a first place, because it's a lot easier before they nerf whatever things they're going to end up nerfing on those new heroes.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Before I get to your final thoughts, Pocky, one final thought I had for Doc is I think now you have to have 100% take on Doc Holiday. Like every time he comes up, you have to take him.
You gotta.
Yeah, gotta stay on brand. But that's definitely in the old brain. I have to remember to do. But yeah, I'd love to do 100% pick rate on Doc Holiday for sure.
All right, well, Pocky, to wrap this up, you got any final thoughts for our listeners on this new and exciting meta?
No, I've just been having a lot of fun, and I hope everyone tries it out, and also has a lot of fun, because I think the devs did a really good job. I tell them, to their face when I'm like, hey, this sucks. They know that, but to be able to do that, I had to give them credit where it's due, and I think they did a fantastic job. I think a lot of other, Battlegrounds mains would say that this is by far the best release in terms of balance that we've probably ever had of something new. Usually something sticks out, the balance is not very good. It's in a very good spot, and it gives me a lot of hope for, they're gonna, patch some stuff in the future for sure, and tweak it. But you're at a very good starting foundation, and it's only going to get better.
And let's be clear, you don't say this sucks. You say constructively that I'm not happy with this because of that. You're not that guy that goes, "Hey devs, get good, noobs." And in fairness to them, they've done a pretty solid job throughout. Like buddies, a lot of complaints about the initial buddy system was it was very linear, it was very different. And then we had quests, and everyone's like, "Oh, we love that." Then they brought buddies back, but buddies were a lot different. And it was like they had listened. They're like, "Oh, this is what you liked about buddies. This is what you didn't. This is what you liked about quests. This is what you didn't." And they iterated on it. Same thing with the next quest. Same thing with everything. So they listen and they take our feedback, as long as you're not telling them they suck, into consideration.
Oh, it's not. Yeah, it's not the devs that suck. It's the it might be a certain card I don't like or a certain thing in the game, but the devs do not suck by any means. They are fantastic. They are good at taking feedback, and like you said, it's all about giving it constructively, and saying, it's okay to say bad things, right? But you just need to articulate it. Why aren't you having fun with it? Why does it suck? Because then it's actually helpful to them on fixing it. And thus far, they've done a good job about, like you said, improving those things when they hear this doesn't feel good, right? Like how do we fix it? And I think, like you said, buddies are a premier example of that, where the first buddy meta people hated them, and then the second buddy meta people were like, wait, these were fun. Like it was a total 180, and it's all credit to the devs for listening to that feedback and not taking it too harshly when people say, hey, this sucks.
How about yourself, Doc? You got any final thoughts on the spell meta before we move on?
Spells are fun.
So fun. Anyway, Doc, I'm a little full. That was a lot of information, but I think there's always room for dessert.
Yeah, and speaking of dessert, I don't know if this was something we did last time we had you on, Pocky, but what is your favorite dessert?
Oof. Well, I love a good dessert, but that's a tough question. I love ice cream. That's really tough. Key lime pie is good. I'll say, I just made this for Thanksgiving. I know it's a little bit ago, but I just made some peach cobbler for Thanksgiving. I love peach cobbler.
Ooh, my man.
One thing I do know about Pocky in desserts is he has a very specific way to eat a cupcake.
Yeah, you'll.
Oh, do you make it a sandwich?
I do not. Sway does that, and we have an ongoing friendly banter about it. Not a raging blood feud, for sure. Not anything too serious, but no. I think you should. Don't desecrate your cupcake. Just eat it like it was meant to be eaten. But some people don't agree with that. So
yeah, I eat I eat them both ways, but I have started to prefer making my cupcakes a sandwich.
You can go talk to Sway. She will have more sympathy for you than I will.
Sorry to disappoint you. Listeners, thank you for listening to our show. We've been doing it for over a year now, so your continued support means a lot to us. If you haven't, please feel free to leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing, the good, bad, the ugly. We want to make this show the best it can be for what we want it to be and for what you want it to be. So if you have anything you'd like to see in the show or any suggestions, please feel free to reach out to either Tito and I or email the show at breadandbutterhs@gmail.com. And if you leave us a review, we'll read it out on the episode. So, Pocky, if people want to find you on social media, where can they do that?
Twitch and Twitter are the best. I'm Pocky Plays. No spaces, no underscores or anything on Twitch. And Pocky_plays on Twitter. I'm one of those two on every other social media platform. So wherever you're at, try one of those two and y'all find me. But yeah.
And Tito.
You can find me at Tito Santana HS on both Twitter and Twitch. How about yourself, Doc?
So you can primarily find me on Twitter. Sometimes on Twitch I do stream, but with my PC issues, that's on hiatus until that gets fixed. But mainly Twitter at Doc McButt. Pocky, do you have anyone you'd like to shout out today, or any special project or anything you're doing that you'd want to shout out today?
Nothing specifically. Just if you, like I said, if you want to stop by, stopping by the stream is always great. And shout out to you guys for having me on again. It's always fun. I love talking about Battlegrounds and Hearthstone with you guys, of course, but anyone in the community. So it's always just a joy. And I hope everyone that listens knows how much you guys put into it, and gives you the credit. So huge shout out to you guys, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you. Tito.
Well, Pocky, we always shout out our guests, but especially to you this week, because we had a cancellation of a guest this week, and I asked you kind of last minute, and you stepped right up to the plate. So I really appreciate that. It's huge. And Doc, how about yourself?
So as always, Pocky, thank you. You're always a pleasure to talk to. It's fun to hang out with you for as long as we can have you on the show. And then I want to shout out Man at Arms, Beanut, and Gator, because they finally did what they said they were going to do and kill me first in Commander. And it happened. And so I didn't win. But shout out to you guys. Thank you for making Commander Night so much fun.
And one last thing, if Pocky mentioned his stream, if we have, most of the people we have on do some content, and we love them all, and you should watch them all. Pocky is great if you want to be entertained and you want to learn. He is one of the best players I've seen on stream that not only talks through his plays and makes you a better player just by watching his stream. So I highly recommend you to do that. But anyway, guys, I think we're toast. We'll see ya.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Slide two brothers meet one another when they slide up to the mic. It's bread and butter with one another. Let's start up that recording light.